Welcome to In the News for August the 25th, 2023. I am Brett Burney from appsandlaw.com.
And this is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. Brett, this is episode 111. That's a whole lot of ones.
What?
We're number one three times over. I like that.
It would have been cool if it was November 11th. We could do all kinds of stuff like that. I'm just thinking. Hey, real quick, we want to say thank you to our sponsors today at SaneBox. We'll talk a little bit more about them in just a moment, but you can go and find out more about them at sanebox.com/in-the-news. Really happy that they have been helping us, and I have been really enjoying the service. If you're in the market for buying any kind of Apple products, it's funny the way I'm thinking about this, Jeff, and people always come and ask us. Like, hey, should we get the latest iPad? Is there another one coming out? People want to hold off sometimes. Well, you link to a page on MacRumors that I've pointed some people to, in some cases, that it may be good to wait. Anyway, you had another story on here today where MacRumor was going through like 4 products that are probably the oldest in the Apple lineup right now. And if you're looking at one of those, maybe you should wait for a little bit on this.
To get back to the first point, if anyone ever goes to macrumors.com, at the very top, there's a link called Buyer's Guide. And it's really nice because it will, whatever you're looking to buy, and any Apple product, an Mac or iPhone, whatever, and they'll actually tell you, hey, the rumors are that a new Mac will be coming out in about a month or two. So maybe this is not the time to buy, or they'll say something like this is a perfect time to buy. So it's just, again, it's based on rumors. So it's, you don't know if it's right, but it's, if you don't keep up with this stuff day to day, it's nice to have somebody who knows what they're talking about, sort of giving you tips. Just yesterday, Brett, one of my partners walked in my office and said he needs a new iPhone. And of course, the first thing I told him was, well, new iPhones are going to come out in just a few weeks. And his response to me was, well, I don't need the latest and greatest iPhone. So it doesn't matter to me if I get whatever the new one is. And I'm like, well, that's a fair point. But also keep in mind that when they come out with, and this is why the Buyer's Guide is useful, when Apple comes out with the new iPhone, which will be the iPhone, I guess it'll be the 15 next if they're in order, right? Well, you can still buy an iPhone 14 because Apple will usually continue to sell the previous model at a discount. So as I was telling him, even if you want to get last year's model, because that's more than enough for you, if you wait a few weeks, you might save like, I don't know how much, $100, $200, $300, something like that. So it's useful to know, even if you don't want to get the latest and greatest. So I like this Buyer's Guide, but it was funny to see this article that there were these products that are the oldest ones ever. I was actually surprised to see the HomePod Mini was on that list. It seems like it wasn't that long ago they came out with it, but I guess it has been around. I mean, they changed the colors, but that's not really changing the technology itself. And then of course the Apple Pencil, which I've been using for so long, and it's always right here next to me. I love my Apple Pencil. I would love to see something new. People have talked about maybe if it had like a physical button on it that could do certain things as opposed to just tapping it. I don't know what it would do if it was new, but I use it so much that I have faith in Apple that if they came up with some new features for it, I'm sure I would be interested. But it's interesting that it's now one of the oldest products out there. And
I was amazed, Jeff. I would have guessed maybe 2020 or 2019 at the earliest that this came out. They said the second generation Apple Pencil was announced in October 2018.
That's not have guessed 5 years.
I know.
Wow.
I know. That just sounds crazy because I've been using it. I've been in a conference all week, and just like you, I've been taking notes on my iPad and using notes and using OneNote and Notability even. And it has absolutely been fantastic. I mean, to me, it's just secondhand. Anyway, I just can't believe it still feels so new in the fact that I'm using it, and I'm always so amazed that I can write as good as I do and do all the things that I can do with the Apple Pencil. So anyway, we'll have to see if that means that they're going to be looking at something. It is fun to look at this Buyer's Guide, and just to underscore something that you said, this is all based on rumors, right? The only people that know when certain devices are coming out is Apple. But I like on this app, the MacRumors Buyer's Guide here, they'll tell you, don't buy this right now because there could be something else coming out, just like you told your partner, Jeff. Like, don't buy the iPhone 14. But they will say, like the Mac Mini, that's pretty new. Buy now. Like that one is a good. That's a good bet right now because it's more recent, and you're going to do okay if you want to come out with, if you wanted to look at that on there. So just really interesting little options there. The AirPods Max too. December 2020. I thought that those were newer, and I see so many. My daughter just got a pair too, and she's loving it for college. But wow, I thought that wasn't 3 years old already. But we'll see. I'm interested to see if Apple's going to do something with the AirPods Max on there as well. We know that Apple is doing something with the Vision Pro. uh, Still not available, allegedly, until early 2024 for, I guess, what could be the general public. But I saw some stories and people talking about Apple has been kind enough and generous to let some developers get some hands-on time with the Vision Pro to start developing. And this was a fantastic story, even though it's Apple. It's from Apple here, but it's one of our favorite apps from FlexiBits, right? Fantastical. And it was just really cool to see his experience in looking at the Vision Pro and even seeing his apps in the Vision Pro, I think for like one of the first times, he said.
Yeah. The developers that are putting together apps for the upcoming Vision Pro have something that can run on their computer. And so you can sort of like on your 2D screen have a virtual environment that you can pretend like you're moving around, but that's not quite the same thing as actually having on a headset where you move your head around and look around. And so what Apple's doing is they have these labs around the world that you can book an appointment if you're a developer, and you can try it out. But of course, the developers that participate in the program are under non-disclosure agreements, NDA, so they can't talk about it. So what jumped out at me about this article is that it's the first time that, and again, this is put out by Apple, so it went through Apple's PR, and they're only going to put the nice things in here. But they have 3 different developers that we sort of know their products very well. The first one you mentioned, a Fantastical, great calendar app that I've been using for years. David Smith, who makes Widgetsmith, which is an app that so many people use to customize the look of their iPad and iPhone and stuff like that. And another developer in here. And it's nice to hear these developers talk about that. You can put something together in a 3D environment using your computer, but when you actually experience what it's like to have these things all around you with the boundless canvas that just goes every which way that you look, that just how life-changing it is. I'll tell you, Brett, they're going to be really expensive, but I am very much thinking that I might put all little caveats on my voice you can hear, but I really think I want to try this. And I know that when you get the first generation, it's going to be early, and much like the first iPhone, it gets updated over time, stuff like that. But I am just so curious about the new type of spatial computing, as Apple calls it, and what it would be like to have this environment, that I'm just incredibly intrigued. So I love being able to see reports like this that start to give you a little bit of a taste of what's going to be around just next year, which is, in a blink of an eye, Brett, it's going to be here. And so, and it's, and again, maybe this will be a dud. Maybe this will not be a big thing, or maybe it's going to be just a super niche product that not many people use. Or maybe it will be the next generation of computing, albeit one that takes a while to come out. I mean, I don't think it's going to change the world in a year. The iPhone came out and it didn't change a lot. When the first iPod came out, it was very small market of just Mac people. The very first Mac. All of these products that, in retrospect, have changed so much of the world. It takes a while for that to happen. This could be the next big thing. Maybe it's interesting to think about.
Well, Apple is in it for the long game, Jeff, right? I mean, it's just like, to your point, another story that you linked to today from Patently Apple, who which is just always been a very curious blog to me, because he's following all the patents that Apple is filing. So it's like, can we get some kind of heads up on something? But this was interesting that Patently Apple was talking about Apple won a patent in 2007, which is when the iPhone came out, to your point.
They just won it, I think, this week, but it was.
But they filed it.
I think I have that right. I'm not a patent attorney, so I don't know how this works. But the interesting thing is, you said it's 2007. They applied for this patent
2007.
Before, because the first iPhone came out in the summer of 2000, or at least announced in the summer of 2007.
Correct.
So, at the same time that the world is first being introduced to an iPhone, you have some smart developers at Apple coming up with ideas and getting a patent on it and when you look at this description, I mean, Brett, with the picture, it is clearly
very
the
close.
Vision Pro. I mean, both the way it looks and the way that they describe what you can do in a 3D environment and everything else. And I guess you could say it's not surprising because, science fiction authors have been describing things like this for, decades, stuff like that. So I guess it's not that surprising. And yet, Apple was coming up with a patent. And we should also point out that companies like Apple, they apply for patents on everything because you never know what's going to be the next big thing. So for every 100 patents, there might be one product or something like that. But even so, I thought it was just so fascinating that they found this patent that had been initially applied for so long ago. And here we see the fruits of the labor coming out next year.
Yeah. So anyway, just real quick to go back to your point, the Vision Pro is going to be so expensive and probably so out of reach for so many people that right now I know a lot of people that I talk to that aren't really into the tech stuff. They're kind of like just like brushing it aside, like, okay, whatever. Like I don't know if I'm ever gonna be interested in that, but I think eventually it could. Like, that's exactly what you said. Nobody, there's only a few people that had the iPod at the beginning or the iPhone, and now it has basically taken over the world. And so, as I said, Apple is in the long game. And so this might be that first, shot across the bow for like, we're doing virtual reality, and, they're doing it right. I mean, the fact that they're getting developers in there already, and we have excitement coming from developers that we know and respect and are following, and they're already understanding how they can take advantage of this spatial computing, I think that's just going to have a huge bearing on that. And it's going to take some time, but as I said, Apple's in it for the long game on that.
Well, it's funny. I mean, imagine these developers that came up with the patent in 2007, and then the device is going to come out in 2024. So that's what 10 plus. That's what 17 years. That's a long time between coming up with an idea and actually seeing it being developed. And that's just the first generation of it. So that is a long game, to say the least. Goodness.
When the Vision Pro does come out, you might want to consider using your Apple Card, the Apple credit card. We've talked about the Apple credit card several times. I think everybody knows that I am a big fan of it. This was really my little introduction into Apple Pay, which I got to tell you, I'm almost exclusively, like, I get annoyed now if I have to actually pull a physical credit card out of my wallet. In fact, I'm at the hotel I'm staying at, I'm using my Apple Watch, to open it, and it goes through the Apple Wallet. Anyway, just getting back. There are many credit cards out there that will give you like cash back, or, you get a sign up bonus or something. But Apple's credit card, which is through it's Goldman Sachs, right? Apple's credit card has historically stayed away from some of these, sign up bonuses or anything like that, except that we just saw this week that there is now something that you can go in and find that I think it's cash back on some travel and dining. Now there's a limit on how much you can get, but I just found this fascinating that the Apple credit card is offering this now, Jeff.
Yeah, no, not to everybody. I mean, it says select people.
That's
and in
true.
Fact, I was just checking this morning. In fact, I should check right now because I have my iCloud account. Yeah, I do not see the offer in there yet. But if you are lucky enough to get the offer that is described in this article on 9 to 5 Mac, you can get 5% daily cash back on travel and dining up to $1,300, which is pretty good because people, travel and dining is definitely categories that you tend to spend a little bit more money on. You can have a couple of nice meals, or travel can add up so quickly. For these credit cards, anytime that I can get 3%, which is usually the most you can get cash back for an Apple products and some of their partners like Walgreens and Exxon and places like that. 3% cash back is really pretty good. I mean, as I understand from all the credit cards out there that you can buy, when you get 3% cash back, that's a pretty good deal. 1% and 2% are nice, but 3% is where it becomes, super competitive, frankly, with even, many bank savings accounts and those sorts of things. So anything that's higher than 3% is going to be a really good deal. And of course it's a come on, a promotion type thing. So it's going to be limited. So if you have an Apple card and you're lucky enough to get this offer to take advantage of 5%, that's pretty good. It's why not? And again, it doesn't, no sweat off your back, whether you use your American Express or your regular Visa or your Apple card, whatever. It's just another credit card. So why not take advantage of it? So it's interesting to see Apple, continue to promote all this stuff. We have also these stories that I didn't link to today, and I don't think you have them queued up, but we've seen over the summer that Goldman Sachs, who, as you mentioned, is the partner behind the scenes, they signed up with Apple to sort of get into the consumer credit space, and then they've decided in months, according to the stories and the rumors, that they're not as interested in being in the consumer credit space, and they're looking to get out of the business, but they're tied up with Apple for a period of time that they agreed to in the contract. So, at the same time that Goldman Sachs is probably like, we don't really necessarily want to be here, Apple is out there like, yep, let's keep, promoting the Apple Card and getting it going.
Let's keep going.
Yeah. And, this story also reminds me of what we were talking about last week, Brett, where we talked about the rumors of, would Apple possibly buy Disney? And as crazy as that is, but it reminds you that, it wasn't that many years ago that Apple was just about making computers and then making iPhones. And now between TV shows and movies and credit cards and service, I mean, there's so many different things that Apple does. It's not the Apple that we used to know.
So if you have an Apple credit card, let's just let people know how they can find this or see if you actually are targeted. Because honestly, I didn't know about this like little bonus tip. If you go into your Apple wallet and you pull up your Apple credit card, there's a little circle with 3 dots in the upper right corner. And if you tap on that, that's where you can see like if you have monthly installments, because I have several with the different Apple products that I've purchased. But there is a little option there that says daily cash. And if you tap on that, that will tell you, first of all, you can elect if you want your daily cash to go to your Apple Cash account, or if you want to set up this savings account now, that you can do. That's from that's also Goldman Sachs. You can have like a savings account there. But Jeff, I scrolled down and sure enough, I've got not this offer here, but I've got a 6% daily cash at Panera. So as you said, typically
I'm seeing it too. Yeah. And I didn't know about it. Keep
I know. That's what I'm saying. So typically you get 3% back. That's exactly what you were talking about. You get 3% back on your Apple credit card. And even if you used it at Panera, that's one of the partners. But here right now, you can, if you have the Apple card and you turn on this offer here, you can get 6% back up to $500. So like I said, this wasn't one of the ones that they were talking about here, but it's fairly similar, right? It's a dining, but it's just at Panera. And I just found that to be, I'm like, well, thank you. I didn't know that there was like a page on here where you can go and find out. And then at the bottom, by the way, if you go all the way down to the bottom, it has those different merchants we were just talking about. It has Exxon Mobil. It has, you can even get 3% back on Uber, for example. So I loved that the story put us into this. This is how you do it. Go to your Apple card, hit the little circle with the dots up there, and you can go to daily cash. And then if there are any updates, that's how you would see if there's any offers there. And if this offer is, if you're targeted for this offer, it would show up there. But there's a few others there. There's like you can get a bonus if you refer someone to an Apple card. So a neat little tip, I think, on there as well.
I also see, Brett, and this is a cool tip that I did not know about. At the very top of the screen, it tells me the lifetime that I've received an Apple
That's
Cash.
Right.
And you don't have to share if you don't want to, but I see that I have received $940 over the lifetime of my Apple card, which is not nothing.
Wow.
That's pretty good. So, almost $1,000. I can't argue with that.
I got about 400 more on top of you, but honestly, it's probably because, again, this is like almost exclusively the way that I buy Apple products, because you get that 3% back on it, and obviously Apple products are a little bit of a premium, but then if you pay with that Apple card, you can pay over 12 months. That's what those monthly installments are, and I just think that that's brilliant. No interest or anything, and in fact, I sometimes will try to pay something off early, and there's a little message that pops up on the credit card, Jeff, and it says, you can pay it off early, but you're not getting paid, you're not charging interest. And you could just leave it. Like you only have 5 more payments left or something like that. And I'm like, okay, you make a good point.
Yeah.
I'll leave it on there.
This should have been a daily tip for the day, but it's interesting because right underneath where it tells me over the lifetime how much cash I've received, it then uses sort of a color-coded bar that tells you how much of that did you get 1%, how much of that 2%, and how much of that 3%. And the irony is, even though there are very few things, as you just mentioned, that you can get the 3% back on, it's like 90% of my bar is the 3% stuff, because that's what I use my card for. It's the 3% items like the new Apple computer that I bought for my daughter for her to use in school this year. That's what I'm going to use my Apple card for. So I tend to get 3% a lot. And then the final thing before I get off of the screen is just below that, they have what happens when you get daily cash. And of course, it used to be that you just came straight to you, money that you could spend, like, using, Apple Pay Cash or something like that. But you and I talked about this a few months ago, that they came out with the new option of a savings account, which is what I have turned on. And so now when I get Apple Cash from Apple, it goes into the savings account. And again, the savings account doesn't earn a ton of interest, but at least earn something. So in theory, if I get Apple Cash today and I wait 6 months before I use it, it'll be a little bit more in 6 months than it was today. So, and what I typically do is I use my Apple Cash if, the next big Apple product that I want to get for myself, maybe you not sure if you could spend the extra $100 for the additional RAM, but hey, I'm just going to use some of my Apple Cash that I've earned to pay for it, and therefore I feel better about it. So, so I like that Apple has the credit card. It's nice. It works for me.
One last hidden tip, Jeff. Tap the color bar right there.
Okay, tap the color bar.
And
and it actually shows you how much dollars. Yeah, look at that. Very cool.
Like, it doesn't show. I tapped it there, so like you said, it'll show like how much you've spent. You get 3% back or so. But if you want to see it in dollar signs, you just tap it, and it changes into dollar signs instead of percentage.
Good job.
It's like the day of hidden tips. I love it. More tips. How about some tips on using Apple Notes? Man, we have, I feel like this is like every month, like every other episode, we talk about Apple Notes, and it is well deserved. This was a fantastic article, I think, that you linked to from the Sweet Setup here. This is Josh Ginter, and he boldly has called this the ultimate guide to Apple Notes, although I think he did pretty good. This is a home run. I mean, most of this I think we've talked about and I knew about, although he even goes into some iOS or iPadOS 17 tips on here. So that's getting me even more excited for iOS 17 now.
If you use Apple Notes at all, I strongly encourage you to read through this article, because I challenge you. If you can go through this entire thing and tell me with a straight face that you knew everything in here, well, then hats off to you. But I use Apple Notes a lot, and I didn't know all of this stuff. I mean, I'll give you one example. This is something, it may seem small, but it's a relatively new feature that they added that, sometimes for me, a note is just something, I just jot down something quickly.
Yeah.
Like a phone number or a number, data or something like that. But then I have some notes that I've actually over time, I continue to add things to, and then I format it nicely and I put in a table, and and there are some notes that are actually useful documents for me. And if you have a note that's developed to that point and you actually want to start doing something with it, there's a new feature that when you hit the share button, one of the options that you have, and I didn't know about it until I read this article this week, is that you can share to Pages, which is Apple's, app. It's like, Apple's version of Microsoft Word. And what's nice is that although there are lots of formatting options in Apple Notes, you can change it to like a header style or bold or italics. It doesn't have all the formatting that you would get in a true word processor. And so if you actually start working on something in the Notes app, and then you're like, you know what, I actually want to turn this into a little bit more polished document, and then maybe export it as a PDF and share it with other people. It's very, very easy now to transition from the Notes app into Pages. Once it's in Pages, you can edit it like you would edit any other word processing document, make it look all pretty as you want it. And then once it's in Pages, you could share it in Pages format, but it would be more useful to export it in PDF, and then you could share it with other people or keep it for yourself and stuff. So it's nice that, things aren't stuck in Notes forever. There's a very nice way to sort of get things out of it. I had no idea that this feature was added to Notes until I read this article. And that's just one of 20 little tips he has in here of different cool things that you can do. There's so much in here.
Well, I'll tell you quickly one of the things I'm excited, because this isn't coming up until iOS 17, right? This is something he's talking about. He's in the public beta right now. And
it's in there now, because I actually tried it.
Oh, it is.
Although, he does say.
He does say it there,
bizarre. He says right here that it's coming in iPad OS, but I literally did it this morning when I saw the tip. But maybe it's going to be.
Let me try that.
Maybe there's going to be an enhanced version in iOS 17, but it worked for me this morning, so it's in iOS 16.
Well, so I'm liking this from my standpoint, because what I do is I think of almost the Notes app as like my scratch pad. Like if I just need to jot something down quickly, or I need to make a list. And so what happens a lot of times, Jeff, is I'll do that quickly in Notes, and then I'll copy it all and then paste it into either a Word document or maybe an email or so. And I got to tell you, sometimes the formatting is just a little wonky, right, on there. And so the fact that I can do this transition into Pages, I think for me, it's probably going, I'm going to like that just because I know it's going to be formatted. But then I'll also just mention this. We have seen notes evolve a lot over the last few years. And at first I was a little upset in notes because I like to bold things sometimes or highlight, or, or even do strike through. And what do you know, over the years, a lot of those basic, what we usually call rich text formatting, that is now available in notes. And in other words, it's pretty much, most of what I need now these days.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been very happy, even just most of my things just stay in notes on there. But yeah, I that's one thing. You and I landed on the same thing there. It's like, wow, I did not know that you could do that. But just to your point, Josh here, it goes into great detail about how you can edit PDFs in here, or you can annotate PDFs in there. I don't do that a lot. I like PDF Expert and some other apps. He talks about like the handwriting recognition, which just still blows me away. You and I do that in Notability and GoodNotes. So I feel like there's a lot of overlap here with some of the other, but to me, no matter what other app I use, Jeff, I will inevitably come back to notes at some point. And since all of us, my family, for example, and we all have Macs and iPhones and iPads, it syncs seamlessly through our iCloud account. And so we're, that's just, it's now a repository for a lot of stuff, in addition to what like Evernote used to be, or even OneNote today. But yeah, this is a great, great article. Thanks you for sharing this today.
I'll mention one more quick thing in here, and this is not a new feature, it's an old feature, but the ability that you can put pictures within a note.
Oh, yes.
I actually do that a lot. Just the other day, I was at something at my daughter's school, and it was like a parent meeting, and they were talking about, I think it was like early getting ready for college type stuff. And so I just wanted to jot down a few notes. And so, as you say, I just opened up the notes app, and this was just on my iPhone even, and I was just sort of jotting down some dates I wanted to remember and some things. And then the next thing you know, they put something up on like a screen, like a PowerPoint type thing that had a bunch of data on it. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna write all of this.
Yeah,
I could just take a picture of it, right? So I took a quick picture of it, and in the iPhone app, the Photos app, it's so easy to take something that's like skewed because you were at an angle, so it's a little bit taller on the right. You can adjust that super quickly into something that's just a regular rectangle shape. And then I just put it right there in my notes, and then took more notes behind it. And when it was done, like everything that I wanted to remember from the meeting was there. A lot of it was just me jotting down a few words and a few numbers, but then the few things I wanted to take a picture of, they were just right there in the notes. And so now if I want to go back and look at that 6 months from now, I've got, some nice little notes, and it's nothing fancy, but it does what I need to do. And that's what notes is. It does what you need to do. It's great.
And if I'm not mistaken, the text in that picture that you took is recognizable, right? It's the live text is in there. So if you wanted to search in that, I was using that at the conference that I'm at. I'm taking pictures, and that's exactly what I'm doing it for, Jeff. I'm like, okay, I know that if I need to search for a word, that I saw on a slide or something like that, I'm taking pictures all over. And I got to tell you, especially at this conference I've been at, everybody was doing that. They would either take a picture of the slide on their phone, even though the speakers would say, hey, you can, download the slides in your in your app or so, but we were all taking pictures and putting it into other notes. There's lots of iPads.
You're taking the notes
like
right then and there. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. All right. Here's our warning, public service announcement for the day. If you have an Apple Watch, you might get sick. No, is that if you have an Apple Watch band, you need to make sure that it's clean because it can get bacteria. No, here's the better headline. If you wear any watch with any band at all, make sure you clean it. I thought I heard somebody else talking about these stories today. Why don't you walk us through, Jeff? Because it's a little funny the way you presented it today.
Well, the real public service announcement is not the dangerousness of your Apple Watch band. The real public service announcement is there's not much Apple news in August, because that's why when you find that you need to turn to the journal Advances in Infectious Diseases, not that it's not a page turner. We all love our journal of infectious diseases. But when that's going to have to be the source of your Apple news, I mean, again, I'm sure the people at Apple are very busy right now getting ready for the new iPhones next month. I saw a rumor yesterday that there was an Apple film crew down in Mexico City, and I'm sure they were filming some video of like somebody taking beautiful pictures with the next version of the iPhone. Okay. We shall find out in a few weeks. But so as busy as Apple is right now, those of us who were talking about the Apple news, it's pretty much cobwebs out here. So we have to turn to the Journal of Advances in Infectious Diseases to see them discussing that when you wear a watch band, because it's on your all day and stuff like that, it can get bacteria in there and E. coli and all sorts of other things. So it is what it is. But as you point out, you might as well keep it clean. And so I think that the other PSA of the day is that Apple does have a fabulous page on its website that
Oh,
talks about
yes.
how to clean an Apple Watch. And this page is always surprising to me when I see it, because of course, if you want to clean the Apple Watch itself, not the watch band, but the Apple Watch, you can just put it underwater. And whenever I do that, even though I wear it swimming
Yeah.
and stuff like that, part of me,
Yeah.
just the part of me that instinctively knows that electronics don't go into water, there's a part of me that recoils. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no,
Right.
I'm putting an Apple Watch underwater. But it's okay. It's actually okay. And so they go through in this watch, how to clean it. I've and you and I have talked about this in the podcast a long time
We
ago, that there
have.
may be times
Yes.
where something might get stuck into your digital crown, and you can run it under
Yes.
cold water and get it cleaned out. So if you ever find that something you need to clean the watch or the band, this is a nice page because it tells you what is safe to use, what's not safe to use, so that you can keep it clean.
Yeah, just so that everybody follows our laugh track here. We had the advances in infectious diseases. The story came out, and it was called Prevalence and Disinfection of Bacteria Associated with Various Types of Wristbands. So that's very high level general. But then somebody put a story out on Apple Insider that says Apple Watch bands harbor dangerous bacteria because no one cleans them. So a little bit of a stretch here. It's true, Apple Watch bands do harbor dangerous bacteria, but so do every other watch band. It's not just Apple Watch on there. But then
Yeah.
now to get back to your story, I wonder at the very top here. I don't know. I've been to this page before because you've mentioned it before. I don't know if they had this section at the very top. Maybe they have, but it just seems that in response, they know that a lot of people have been reading these stories. It is the question: is it okay to use a disinfectant on my Apple Watch? Because the
Mm-hmm.
the fabulous advances in infectious diseases journal said that you need to use, isopropyl alcohol or like a wipe. They did mention that apple cider vinegar, interestingly enough, does not clean as well. So
Mm-hmm.
don't use apple cider vinegar on your Apple Watch band,
Mm-hmm.
but you can use, and even Apple says, to your point, you can use a 75% ethyl alcohol wipe, or even they say a Clorox disinfecting wipe. So they get actually very
Mm-hmm.
specific on there. And, it's okay. Like clean things, just like, hey, clean your underwear too, right? I mean, it's, it's
Mm-hmm.
just things that you need to do in any kind of a watch that you wear. But it's just funny. Like you said, it's been a slow news, but yeah, that digital crown, I remember I used that as my tip several weeks ago, because sure enough, I noticed, Jeff, that it wasn't, turning as lovely and smoothly as I expected it to, and it was
Yeah.
almost like gummed up a little bit. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't do that. I kept trying to blow it, use compressed air. I tried to just turn it real fast. Nothing was working until I landed on this page, and it says run it under warm running water, and it worked. Beautiful. I've done it several times now, even though, again,
Yeah.
I cringe every single time, just like you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. All right. So if you have that Apple Watch, here's one last little thing that you mentioned today, which I thought was neat if you're really in the market for a
Yeah.
gadget. This is a little pocket-sized Apple Watch charger. It is called the Q Charge. I'm guessing it's QC Charge, Q Charge 2.0 from Cydius Systems. Kind of look a little more of a generic type of a name, but this looks really good. It's like a little pocket thing that you can just put your Apple Watch on and it'll charge it up, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's so small and tiny. It looks really cool. In a perfect world, of course, you would not have to charge your Apple Watch during the day. You could just charge it at night. But, we've all been in a situation where maybe you forget to
Yeah.
charge your Apple Watch overnight or something happens. I have an Apple Watch charger right here next to me at my desk, and I don't really use it the one that I have is just like
Right.
a regular cord plugged in, and I don't use it very often. I mean, I'm sure I go months without using it, but I do like having it there just in case you ever need to charge it. And so if you're going to be out and about, and if you have something tiny like this, you could just throw into a bag, or if you're going to camping or
Yeah.
something, I don't know. I can see lots of uses of having just a little tiny charger, or maybe, you have a teenager that has an Apple Watch and they're maybe not as good about always charging it. But if they have something like this, either attached to or in their knapsack, they can, stick the watch on there during a class and charge it up. So I just thought it was a cute little device. And it's not that
Yeah.
expensive, right? What wasn't it like?
No, I think it was like
Oh,
$54.
60. Okay, it was a little
Okay.
more than I thought. I
Okay.
thought it was closer to 30, but even so, it is what it is, and it's small and looks like it's easy to use. And I think it said that if it's fully charged, you can recharge your Apple Watch like 2 or 3 times. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think of it as insurance, really. It's like, okay, I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
know if I'm going to be out and I just want to. In fact, I picked this up. I don't know if you can see it. This was like almost like a knockoff type of a brand. It's a little charger here. And I love this
Mm-hmm.
thing because it has, a lightning port so I can charge up my phone. But there's a little dimple here in the
That's
top of this
awesome.
battery. And that's for the Apple Watch. Like I got that specifically because in some days, especially if I'm traveling for a lot, and I like to now wear my Apple Watch overnight for sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I like to find, little sections of the day where I may
Sure.
not need to have it on, charge it up a little bit so that way I know that it can last the whole night, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about SaneBox. I got to tell you, I think you're gonna. I want to hear a little bit more about you setting it up, but I got to tell you at this point, Jeff, I feel like I've got everything set up on SaneBox uh, in the way that I want it, and it's to the point now where I truly don't want to go back. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what I did before, if that makes sense. Like my
Yeah.
inbox now, I feel like it's so much more streamlined. So we're talking about SaneBox, by the way, just because they have been very generous to be sponsors with us. You can find out more by going to sanebox.com/in the news. I have set up, I think I've talked about my Sane news folder because I get a ton of newsletters. I didn't realize how many newsletters that I got, Jeff,
That's
but
funny.
all
Yeah.
of those now go straight into that folder and I check it maybe one time a day. And I can delete a bunch of them. I didn't realize how many were junk that I really didn't need to have anyway. But I know that as I'm going through my day, in at least this is my personal email account that I've got it set up on. I know that in my actual inbox is only going to be messages that I really need to see. One other thing, just quickly, I'll mention that I've been using because there's a variety of different folders that you can get set up on here. But one of them that I have looked at, I haven't quite done this yet, but there is a Sane attachments. I don't even want to call it a folder. It's more of like a feature. So there are some emails where I get very large attachments on there. This isn't necessarily because somebody is, sending things, but like in some groups that I'm in, sometimes they'll have, large documents or so. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the Sane attachments allows me to set up a cloud storage service so that those
Huh.
large attachments then can get basically sucked out of my email host, and Sane attachments will now store those attachments for me on Dropbox or Google Drive or Box or OneDrive. In other
Hmm.
words, I'm getting ready to set this up just because I've got a couple of things that are very large. Depending if you have a free Gmail account or depending on what kind of an email host that you have, a lot of us today have unlimited storage, and so maybe this isn't that much of an issue. But there are a couple of things that I just want to set this up. You can go into your settings and you can say, for this folder, I want you to save the attachments into a cloud storage service. Because sometimes I don't need to go back to the emails, right? I just need the attachments. But instead of like going and individually like downloading and storing those attachments, myself, the Sane attachments service, it's not even a folder. It's like a service. Like they do this for me on the back end. They can set this up. So that's my little tip today. Other than all
That's
the
really
other
cool.
things that I've been using, but that's Sane attachments. So you talk a little bit more about SaneBox, Jeff, and maybe even how to set it up there for
Yeah, I
folks.
mean that's what I was going to talk about today was just the ease of setting it up. I originally set up SaneBox with my iPhone JD email account, gosh, over a year ago, and they have great step-by-step instructions that say, you need to change even for someone like me that doesn't really understand this stuff. They say go into
Right,
your
right.
settings,
It's
change your
very
mail host to
easy.
this. It's very easy to
Right,
follow the directions and go through it. But depending upon the plan that you get, they have all these different plans. They have like the snack plan, the lunch plan, the
yeah,
dinner plan. They've got their cute little names. But the one that I have
right.
is sort of the middle of the road one, which is the lunch plan. And
Mm-hmm.
the lunch plan is nice because you can have 6 features for your account. And these things that we've been talking
Right,
about, the Sane black hole feature, Sane attachments, Sane reply
right,
later, those are all features, and you decide which ones you want to have turned on or turned off. And for me,
right.
6 is enough. I think I still have some extras. I could go back and put one more, 2 more, but it's for 2 different email accounts. So for the longest time, I had been using it just on iPhone JD, and it was wonderful. And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I have a second one. I'm paying for a second account. Why not put it on my Gmail account? And my Gmail account is what I
Right.
use if I'm purchasing something online, if I'm, you know how lots of
Mm-hmm.
times like at a restaurant or something, they say they'll send their the the receipt to your email. This is the email that I give out to people in the world. And
Right.
I
Right.
know that I'm going to end up on a mailing list and they're going to send me their monthly offers. And that's fine because I don't necessarily check my Gmail on an hourly basis. But at the same time, it has gotten annoying over the years, and I've had my Gmail account
Right.
forever, that
Right.
when I open up my inbox, there's just so much stuff in there that on the few times when I'm actually doing something real with my Gmail account, it's hard to find it, right? But now that I
Yeah.
have SaneBox turned on for it, and again, I went through this experience over a year ago on iPhone JD, but now I've gone through it again on my Gmail account. Suddenly, it's like peaceful. I open up my inbox, and there's like the 2 or 3 new things, and I'm like, isn't this lovely? This is great. And then, of course, if I want to go look at the newsletters, I can do that. And if I want to go
Yes.
into my Sane Later folder, it's going to have all the
Yes.
stuff it's not that it's spam because it's coming from companies that I've signed up with. So,
Yeah.
whatever company
Right.
I bought a shirt from, their latest offers, but I don't want to be seeing that right now. I just want to see
Right.
this. So, and they have a whole page that walks you through setting it up with Gmail. It's super, super fast and easy to do. And so my point is,
Yes.
if one of the reasons that you have not used SaneBox yet is because you're like, oh, this just seems like it's so complicated to go through. It's really not.
No.
They have easy pages that go through. I want to say that when I set it up with my Gmail, Brett, I want to say it took 5 minutes, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so super easy.
Yeah.
I just followed their directions, their website. They told me what to do. I did it and it was done. And now whenever I open up my Gmail inbox, it's just very nice and calm. And I can, and it's not just that. I mean, I'm joking a little bit when I talk about it being peaceful, but what it really is it's
No.
productivity, because what it means
Right.
is I jump on my
Right.
Gmail, I instantly see what I need to see, and then I
Right.
get back to work. I'm not going to
Exactly.
be, stuck in there for 10 minutes because I got to go through all the stuff that I'm not interested in to get to the stuff that really
Right.
matters to me. And that's what I really like about SaneBox. And that's why I encourage people to check it out, is it just allows you to be more efficient, to get exactly what you want out of your email, but not waste time doing the stuff that you don't want. So
It's pretty much, it's ruined me in the sense that I want to set it up on my Gmail too. In other words, I had it just set up on one account, Jeff, just like what you're talking about. And now if I go to a different account, like my Gmail account, I'm annoyed. I'm truly annoyed. I'm like, wait a minute. No, I want all of this stuff to be filtered out. And that's the way I've described SaneBox to several folks. It's like, it literally is like having an assistant, a personal assistant, sit there and go through the emails and say, hey, these 5 are the ones you need to look at. Don't worry about the others. You can take care of that later. And that has been great. So to underscore your point, this is the great thing about it. Why not go and try it? I mean, if you can at least just see how it works, you can get it set up. And by the way, I don't want to mention this so much, but it is easy to cancel it too, like in your settings page, if you need to cancel. So what I'm trying to say is, if you go to sanebox.com/inthenews, sign up for a free trial. It's not going to mess anything up on your email host. You're going to at least get to see some of the features that Jeff and I have been talking about. And if you do decide to keep it, because I think you will, just like me, I can't do without it now. Then if you go to sanebox.com/inthenews, you can get a free trial for 14 days and $25 credit toward one of these SaneBox subscriptions, which I got to tell you, that's really good. I mean, the prices already are very good, Jeff, but if you get $25 credit toward that, that's great. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't take that up. So sanebox.com/inthenews. Thank you, SaneBox, for sponsoring us today. In the know. So my tip's a little lame today, Jeff. I'm sorry, but we were talking about the Notes app, and I just have to tell you, this is at the top of my mind. We just dropped my daughter off about a week ago at college, and already there's like, oh, hey, mom and dad, can you remember to next time you come up to see me, can you remember to bring, like, I think she wanted her bathrobe and she wanted like some protein bars or something like that. And how did she give us a list? There's a variety of different things you could do with a list, but sure enough, we all have iPhones and iPads. She started a list in Notes. And so she shared a note with us so that we could all collaborate on it. So if we needed to check something off, one of us could. But the interesting thing, when I go into my notes just quickly and you have a shared note, you can actually tap. There's a little icon up here. It's hard to describe, but it's like a circle with a person in it with a check mark. And that tells you that this particular note is being shared. But if you tap on that little icon up there, there's all kinds of things that you can see what your shared people are doing, Jeff. First of all, you can turn on participant cursors. And so you can see if somebody else is typing at the same time that you're watching it. You can say show all activity, and it'll basically tell you like who joined the note, when does somebody leave the note, when does somebody make an addition to the note. You can show highlights. So if somebody highlights something on there, I love the fact that you can get in there and see all the activity. It's almost like an audit trail, right? Of what, some people were doing, or you can see what somebody changed or somebody made a difference in there. So I know the article we talked about sharing notes or collaborating on notes, but I love the kind of the granularity here that you can even go into a shared note and you can watch the participant cursor, you can see all the activity, and then of course if you need to, you can unshare the note or take somebody off if you need to on there. But I just thought that was neat. That's in sharing notes, and I've started sharing notes with a bunch of different people. I don't know if you and I have a shared note, but I know several other friends that I have where either book lists or if we're going to an event or something, then we'll just share all the details in that way, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah, my wife and I do it all the time. It's super, super useful.
Okay, good.
I'm a big fan of shared notes are exponentially more useful than just regular notes, and regular notes are incredibly useful. So I love share notes. It's a great feature, and I'm glad you mentioned it today. Very cool. So when I was thinking about a tip for today, I was thinking, what is something that I'm using just about every day and that I can talk about? And it occurred to me, what I'm doing just about
Apple
every
Watch.
day, Brett, is well, that's true, but it's the silly little free game Wordle. Wordle became sort of a phenomenon back in 2021.
That's much
everybody
more fun.
Everybody was playing Wordle back in 2021, and then in early 2022, the New York Times purchased it, but they kept it free, and in fact, they've been very good stewards of the service for the last almost 2 years now that they've been running it. And there's also some Wordle clones out there.
Wow.
And 18 months ago, a year and a half ago to the day, you and I recorded episode number 40, as you may remember, I'm sure, very vividly.
Oh, fondly,
and it was on February 25th of 2022. And I recommended that if you like Wordle, there are lots of Wordle clones out there, but they're not clones because they change the game in different ways. And I recommended one that was called Quordle, which gives you 4 boxes on screen.
I do remember
and
this.
I recommended one called Octortle, which gives you 8 boxes on one screen. So I wanted to report back a year and a half later and say that these services are still fun, and they're in fact even better now than they ever were before. So Wordle, of course, is owned by the New York Times. Quordle is actually owned by Merriam-Webster, which makes sense because lots of times when they come up with a word, you're like, that's a word I've never heard of before, and they very helpfully provide a link at the end.
Here's the definition,
and you can look at the definition in Merriam-Webster's dictionary. But it's not just the Quordle game; they actually have a couple different sub games in here, and there's one called the sequence version of Wordle, which if you've ever done Wordle with multiple boxes that you're solving multiple puzzles at the same time, it's nice because you can sort of solve them in whatever order you want. But what's upping the difficulty level is to make it that you have to solve the first box first, and then you can use the same words in the second box, and then the same words in the third box, and so it ups the difficulty level in a way that I find really fun. So I like both the regular version of Wordle, and there's a new one every day of Quordle, and the sequence version of Quordle, and then there's the Octortle puzzle, which is owned by Britannica.com, as in the
Encyclopedia
Britannica. Yes. Now, what I did not realize is that Encyclopedia Britannica and Merriam-Webster are actually the same company. Did you know that?
I don't think I did.
And they have been since the 1960s. So it's been a long time that they've been the same company. But anyway, I guess they bought both of these, and they use one of them to promote the dictionary and one of them to promote Britannica. And it's got the same ideas. There's the regular Octortle, there's the sequence version. They even have something that I don't play it a lot because it is purposefully annoying, but it's called the rescue game. And the idea is you're playing Octortle, but somebody else has done the first 3 or 4 clues, and they've done a horrible job. Imagine that, like, somebody picks horrible words and then says, I'm stuck, Brett. Can you finish the puzzle? And you're like, well, gosh, you've already used your first 4 clues on these horrible clues. And then you have to sort of rescue them from there, hence the name of it. So again, they're different twists on the same genre. And I realize that I'm much more into word games. I love the New York Times crossword puzzle and all that sort of stuff. But if you're the sort of person that loves word games, of course, the original Wordle is the classic.
That's
but
wow.
both Quordle and Octordle and all the little permutations they've come with are fun. And I can't say that I play them every single day, but I do play them several times a week, and they're fun, and you can do them quickly, and it's just a little time waster, and they make me happy. So I wanted to share it with everybody today.
What is your progression, Jeff? Do you start with Wordle and then Quordle and then Octordle? Is that
I do? I am very type A like that. That's exactly right. You can't do Quordle unless you've done Wordle first. So I start with my Wordle, and then if I have a little more time, I'll move over to. And again, it's throughout the day, right? So it might be in the morning.
Yes,
I
of
take
course.
10 seconds or 30 seconds, and I do Wordle, and then over lunch, maybe I'll take a look at Quordle,
crazy.
And then at the evening, I might get to the Octordle and then the sequence. But I do them in order.
You're just Wordling all day.
There you go. Words are
a lot of Wordle.
Head. Yes,
that's actually fun though.
You learn new words too, just like with the crossword puzzle. You learn new words, and it improves your
educational.
And all you see, I can justify it to myself. Exactly, it's educational. It's like school. It's like I'm going to school. Exactly.
This is actually I haven't, like you said, once the fascination died off, I haven't gone back. But yeah, I mean, I can maybe handle the Wordle. But the Quordle and the Octordle, my brain is starting to hurt a little bit on there. But we'll have links to the show notes in case anybody else would like to stay up to date and rescue Jeff if necessary. That's great. All right, good talking with you, my friend. Thanks again to SaneBox for sponsoring us. You can find out more information, just like we talked about, at sanebox.com/in-the-news, all one word. We appreciate SaneBox coming alongside us, and thank you for the service because I'm loving it. All right, Jeff, great talking with you, and we'll talk with you next week.
It was fun talking to you today, Brett. Bye-bye, everybody.